far as I understand, most churches have their own particular traditions or their way of doing things that make them distinct from other churches. So I believe that most Christians, a lot of Bible readers, actually most people just in general, would ask what's wrong with tradition. When you turn to the Bible, in Mark, the book of Mark, chapter 7, verses 6 through 13, Yeshua of Nazareth told the scribes and Pharisees that they worship God in vain, teaching for doctrine the commandments of men, rejecting the commandment of God so that they could keep their own tradition. Most Bible readers don't know that tradition is older than the fall of man, and that tradition was actually the catalyst for Adam and Eve getting kicked out of the Garden of Eden. Traditions are often veiled by habits, the things we do reflectively without thinking about why we do them in the first place. Sometimes when we're asked what a practice means, very often we don't really know why we do what we do. We're just repeating what someone else told us about what we're doing and why we're doing it. Traditions are often simple enough that we're okay practicing them, but nonsensical enough that we don't care to dig too deep into them. Traditions often exist as a means to remind us of some significant time or event. Tradition is also an admittance of a sorts by an intelligent person that they don't necessarily have the ability to keep the event or the ordinance in remembrance, which sounds like a pretty good thing. But I think Bible readers look at passages such as Mark chapter 7, verses 1 through 13, or Matthew chapter 15, 1 through 9, and are quick to pass judgment on the scribes and the Pharisees. But what would the religious leaders of ancient Israel and Judea think of our traditional remembrance being associated with an overweight man parking his reindeer-drawn sleigh on your roof before sneaking into your chimney, or rabbits handing out plastic eggs filled with chocolate and candy? Like I was saying before, tradition led to the fall of man. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 1, the serpent posed a veiled but loaded question when he asked Eve, "Yea, hath God said, you shall not eat of every tree in the garden?" Basically combining Yahweh Elohim's two commands given to Adam in Genesis chapter 2, verses 16 and 17. Of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. And a real quick side note, something that most people don't normally pick up on in Genesis chapter 2, verses 16 and 17. And this addresses the many questions that people ask about God putting the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the garden to test Adam's faith. If you accept that God cannot lie, you need to recognize that the tree of knowledge of good and evil is not a tree that originated in the Garden of Eden. God told Adam that he could eat from every tree of the garden, but not from every tree that was in the garden. The food that God offered Adam provided life, love, and a relationship with the Most High. In contrast, the fruit that the serpent offered Eve brought death, fear, and separation from Yahweh Elohim. The tradition that gave the serpent an opening to conquer man is seen in Eve's response to the serpent's question in Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. Eve responded in Genesis chapter 3, verses 2 and 3, "We may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, you should not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die." Now, from a rational and logical perspective, Eve's response should have shut the serpent down. Not only don't eat the fruit, don't even touch it. You can't eat something that you never touch. But not touching the fruit was a tradition that originated with her and Adam, not with God. When it comes to spiritual warfare, Eve's logical response revealed that she was ready to be slaughtered. Her response indicated to the serpent that 1, she didn't know the word of God, 2, didn't understand the word of God, or 3, that she didn't respect the word of God. Eve's tradition-based response only encouraged the serpent by implying that, in her eyes, the word of God wasn't enough. And given the fact that 2 trees existed in the midst of the garden, Eve's response told the serpent that she was unsure of how to relate to either tree. So much for tradition. In the book of Exodus, after the children of Israel were delivered out of the hand of the Egyptian Pharaoh, the 10 Commandments and the law were given to them in Arabia at the foot of Mount Sinai. And God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it you shall not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested on the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Remember thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land, which the Lord thy God gives thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. A parallel can be drawn between the 10 Commandments and the so-called Beatitudes in Matthew chapter 5, verses 1 through 16. Both discourses are keys to the kingdom of heaven. A parallel can also be drawn between the law that follows the 10 Commandments and the law that follows the Beatitudes. The transitions between each grouping of parallels fits the pattern as well. It's disappointing, but I've never heard anyone ever ask or try to answer, why do hundreds of additional laws follow the 10 Commandments and the Beatitudes? The answer is revealed in Exodus chapter 20, verses 18 through 21, and Matthew chapter 5, verses 17 through 20. And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off. And they said unto Moses, Speak thou with us, and we will hear. But let not God speak with us, lest we die. And Moses said unto the people, Fear not, for God is come to prove you, and that his fear may be before your faces, that ye sin not. And the people stood afar off, and Moses drew near unto the thick darkness where God was. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I say unto you, that except your righteousness exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. Before moving on, it's useful to get some appreciation for why Exodus chapter 20, verses 18 through 21, and Matthew chapter 5, verses 17 through 20 are pivotal points. The question to keep in mind is, what did God want from the nation of Israel? We can read in Exodus chapter 19, verses 5 and 6. Now, therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, a holy nation. These are the words which you shall speak unto the children of Israel. In Exodus chapter 19, verses 5 and 6, Israel was being offered the opportunity to enter into an agreement, a contract, to become a nation of priests unto Yahweh. The nation of Israel was being given the opportunity to enter into the relationship with Yahweh Elohim that Adam initially had in the Garden of Eden. Something pertinent to be aware of. Being in a relationship and being a priest requires a person to draw near to Yahweh Elohim. The reason that the law follows the Ten Commandments and the Beatitudes is because Israel rejected the offer. The people stood afar off and said that they didn't want to hear God's word for themselves, but that Moses alone should speak with God and then come back and tell them what was said. And in Matthew chapter 5, Yeshua was not commending the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees, the men whom he knew would kidnap, beat, and murder him. Nor was he commending the righteousness which they clung to for justification. It's annoying every time I hear some pastor or preacher use this ignorant platitude, and I see church people just nod their heads and smile. Yeshua was warning his followers against the self-righteousness of the men who opposed him and stood at a distance. The Ten Commandments and the Beatitudes are keys to a relationship with the Most High. These keys are rooted in a reliance on God. And if you understand where the kingdom of heaven is, you should also understand that these keys open the door to the Spirit of God within you. The hundreds of laws that follow each key are the standards for people who reject that relationship. Adherence to the law is rooted in your own ability to keep the whole law. The law and faith are two distinct institutions, as distinct from each other as the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Faith is not a New Testament concept. The faithful Old Testament elders, whom I personally believe are the 24 elders of the book of Revelation, chapters 4 and 5, are sequentially laid out and briefly described in Hebrews chapter 11. Many of these highly regarded biblical figures were liars, cheaters, adulterers, swindlers, and even murderers, clear lawbreakers. But they, as all men and women of faith, had a relationship with the Most High. When you have a relationship with God, you draw near to God, and you hear and understand His word. When you don't have, or when you reject that relationship, you must trust in man and that form of righteousness to lead you there. My question for you: which camp are you in? Which camp do you want to be in? After the time you spent in your current beliefs, are you happy with what you know and with how you relate to God? If you've been watching my video series, by now you should see a stark difference between what I'm saying and what is taught in churches. I'm presenting keys that allow you to study and to progress in a relationship, keys to empower you and foster your relationship with God. I do enjoy making these videos, but I do not want to be a crutch. I hope to be a catalyst that helps to spring you forward. If you want a more detailed conversation on what I've been presenting in these videos, check out my book, The Unknown God and the End of Church and State, by me, Maurice Louiso. It's available now on Amazon. Get your copy. If you have any questions, any comments, I do want to hear what you have to say. It helps me with the content, and I enjoy the conversation. Thank you for your time.